In brightest day and blackest night, no granny will escape my sight.
Oh,
Bam!
hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Welcome to the newest member of the Gilf Lantern Corps, because we messing with grandmas in this episode. Anyway, welcome back to So Well Media. We're here with the new addition to the DC universe, DC Studios Lantern. This is a show starring Aaron Pierre, Kyle Chandler as John Stewart, and Hal Jordan, one of our favorite Green Lanterns, and their introduction here to the DC universe. And now HBO. This has been a long-awaited project just to have this, its inception. I ran into Aaron back in San Diego Comic-Con, and then I went to the Lanterns activation, got this ring here from the activation. So I'm feeling good. Now, this is my most anticipated series of the year. But there was a lot of expectations, a lot of speculation how the show is going to turn out. But now, after the first episode, I'll just pass over to you, Jay King, just now. How we got to this point. What was your overall thoughts of Lanterns on HBO?
First off, I just have to say, I think we are going to be in good hands with this series. I know when the first, not photos, but when the first teaser of this series came out, a lot of people were concerned because it was like, oh, even though they said it was going to be a grounded storyline, how can you do grounded storylines with the Green Lantern? Even though people who read classic Green Lantern, especially Green Lantern with the Green Arrow, knows that you can do that. But a lot of people was like, where's the green? Where's the extraterrestrials and all that? And especially after the last trailer we got, I think a lot of that worry started to die down, especially when you heard Aaron and Kyle talking about this series, and also Nathan Fillion talking about this series and going into the true detective nature of it all. And it's like, now that we got to this first episode, it's like, yeah, you can see the true detective nature of this series in full display, while also seeing the glimpses of Green Lantern lore that you know about, being able to casually talk about it, being able to casually talk about the Guardians and OA and different sectors and all that, and how the Green Lantern system works. The fact that this is, at least in terms of the timeline that we see for the most of this episode, the first time that Earth is going to have a second Green Lantern, and just establishing things in the way that they do. And I just really love the vibe of this, because again, this feels like a really, really high budgeted HBO Max show, which it very much is, while at the same time you also still see those inklings of the superhero genre that you are hoping to see, especially now that this is our newest installment in the DCU after Supergirl and before Clayface comes out in 2 months from now. But it's like, I think this is also the best example of what James Gunn was saying, of each project will have its own different tone and vibe within the DCU, because this does not feel like the same thing that you would see in Peacemaker or Supergirl or Superman or Creature Commandos, or even what we'll see in Clayface later on. This has its own vibe, its own corner, even though this is in the same world as Superman of last year, especially since we'll see Guy Gardner later on in the series. But no, I think this is a very strong first episode to hook people in and give them the idea of what exactly is going to come, even if we have really no idea what's going to come, because as we've heard, the show apparently just keeps getting better and better and crazier. So we're in for a good time, but we don't know what that good time is going to entail.
Yeah, and how this episode started off with, they got some rumors how this show is going to be displayed to us in terms of storytelling and breaking out within the different time periods. But it starts out within 1996, in which we can confirm here this is the first outing of Hal Jordan as the first Earth Green Lantern, and we're seeing a young John Stewart with his brothers watching the TV, seeing a 60 Minutes interview of Hal Jordan, him explaining him being a lantern and what the priorities of him being a lantern, saying that, hey, you have to be a man without fear. And we get to a little bit of his origin with his father died being a test pilot and everything in an accident, same thing. So following, textbook by textbook, we're going through this, and then we're seeing that the brothers are trying to rush watching this because dad's about to come home, who we know that John Stewart is also a family of Marines, military people. And when father come back home, you see we watching TV, and I say, who's his name? Oh, that's Hal Jordan. It's like, all right, step outside. We're thinking about to get a whooping or whatever. No, he said, grab an apple, grab his little 9mm or something like that, and it's just put it on the forehead. And if you saw a little detail, did you see the bullet holes in the background of him, I guess he'd been doing this since he was little. That was like the first time this has happened. And then the father, points in a gun at him and yells, "Are you afraid?" And he says no. And then he shoots the apple. Got a good strong target. And then Dad was proud. It's like, all right, let's go get some cheeseburgers. Which already conditions you as the audience member of where we see the conditioning of John Stewart is as a person. Do you understand that with multiple lanterns, there's the personalities, there's also the constructs and stuff by their experience, them being an architect, them being an artist in terms of Kyle Rayner. But you see here that John Stewart is the strong man, but how? Because he was conditioned like that as a child. And we see that even as a child, it's like, no, he'd been raised to be conditioned a certain way. And then we jump into 2016 and we see him, at a gym, definitely grown up a little bit. But now we know that the main part of this background we see here is in the 2016 timeline. And he's already met Hal Jordan, now being a trainee to be the next Earth Green Lantern. So, J. King, what was your thoughts in terms of just the opening of that, and then also leading to now that, okay, John Stewart and Hal Jordan, they have already met. Now they're in this training program, I guess you want to say, for the Lanterns.
I think because also the first 5 minutes that which we just talked about in terms of like the background in 1996 was what HBO Max released like a few days before the episode actually came out. For anybody who does not know why John Stewart is the way that he is, I think this perfectly encapsulates why he's the type of character that he is, the dedication, while also having a bit of a free spirit in terms of being an architect, which they hint about a little bit in this episode, especially later on in the interrogation scene, that if you notice what he's doing while Hal's interrogating the supposed alien, which we find out later is one. But it's like you get subtle hints of that, but you also understand it's like why he is the way he is, because he's been conditioned to that. His father has been basically, setting him up for a great possibility like this, even if they had no clue that somehow he would be chosen by the Guardians of Oa, like conditioning him to be in the type of position where if there was someone to become another Green Lantern after Hal Jordan, it would be him. He would be the best option out there. It's why multiple times in this episode, when people are asking him, like, do you think, you are ready to, take over for Hal? He's like, I know I'm ready. Like, I know that I'm good. I know that I'm ready to go. I'm ready to have that ring now. I'm ready to learn everything, which is why he wants to learn everything and not go through the way Hal is, throughout this episode. I think the best way to describe it is also the conversation he has with his father after the whole car wreck, and where he's like, they're allowed to have tantrums. We aren't. So, stay steady, stay conditioned and you'll be fine. It really just sets up that type of character, because it's like, I think the first 5 minutes which they released gave us a good idea of the type of person Hal Jordan was versus who he is now. Well, the one he's become more so now in current day, while also at the same time showing the differences between him and John Stewart. I think that's another good thing that I really love about this series so far. It's just like what Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre give in terms of representing, like, yeah, they're both Green Lantern. Yes, they'll both have the same powers, but they're not the same person, nor do they go about things the same way. And I think the first 5 minutes, honestly, the first few minutes before the title, really just give to people who have never really known much about Green Lantern, gives you everything you need to know about these two characters in particular.
And with this episode, the big thing you have to win me over is, do I like John Stewart? Do I like Hal Jordan? This versions of these characters, right? Particularly, I'm going to start with Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan, because this was the biggest concern I had with this show, just of them being an older version of Hal Jordan, even pre-DCU, even when we're going to the Jeff Johns project that they were going to do, still going to be that, older Hal, younger John. And so the people have been conditioned now on the studio end that they were going to tell this type of story, not in the way I guess this show has done it, but just having these versions of these characters. And for me, after watching this entire episode, before we even get to the end, is that Kyle, he won me over as Hal Jordan, because his mannerisms to me was just like, okay, this is what Hal Jordan would do. And he's just in his 60s. He's been doing this for 30 plus years. And it's like, well, he doesn't wear the suit anymore, because, I only wear it for special occasions. And he realized that the costume's stupid. I can do 95% of the stuff I can do without wearing the suit. right? Even though us fanboys and girls want to see you in the suit, even with the white gloves and all that. We don't get that, but whatever. But even with John, how he's reacting to Hal, because again, this is also just a part of you see now where John Stewart has known of Hal Jordan for most of his life as a kid. He basically, you can say, possibly might have been one of his heroes. And now here he is older now, meeting one of his heroes, and it's not what he expected, right? Seeing someone in the later half of his career. So it plays on that trope. But I felt the mannerisms that both Hal and John had in this episode to me worked. And that's why I felt this was a successful episode, regardless of the grander story, which we'll get into here, of this attack on this town on a football field where there were aliens and stuff, but a few people died, but there's a mystery going on and investigation is happening, and Hal Jordan is being called to this town, which this town has history because this is where he landed, and was in Sabanur. I'm just playing. That was a joke. Abensur.
Bro.
I just playing with y'all. Y'all pay attention now. Abensur is where he landed. In Nebraska, and that's where the construct of his lantern ring basically took Hal, and that's where he basically became Green Lantern and able to say the oath and everything. But yeah, what was your thoughts in terms of going to the investigation of this episode of these aliens in this small town, and then kind of how the other supporting characters would get introduced in this episode?
And when it came to like the moment that, because another thing that goes into is that we learned that the lantern rings, you have to have a backup of yourself within it that you like update every week, kind of like he says, like iCloud, for example. You have to back it up every week, with new information. And Hal hasn't in the last 10 years, but the last time it had to deal with Nebraska, which, as we said, we learn is where the original lantern that gave him his ring landed. And so it's like the moment that John tells him, hey, this is what your construct told me, he immediately just flies off, and it's like immediately goes from, oh, this is a training of generations to, yep, now we're in the murder mystery. And it's like the moment we get there, the moment that we get there with John, because Hal already got there, it just, the whole vibe just shakes up, because it's just like, this seems like a normal, it was a celebration, high school football that went wrong, people die, gunshots, all that stuff. And then it's like, you can tell, yeah, there's definitely something up with it. Again, even without the aliens aspect, you can tell that something is up with it. It's just like, small town, everybody knows everyone, your neighbors, your best friend sort of deal. But it's just, again, the vibes of it get the feeling of like, okay, yeah, something is wrong. And it makes you as the viewer question every character, even those that are technically, would be on our side. Like, I forget her name, but like, the sheriff that we meet within this episode, who's a part of the Macon family, that we will get to know a little bit later on. She definitely gives the vibe of like, I don't want you here, please leave. Like, we don't need things getting crazy. As she said, it's one thing to hear about this type of stuff on CNN. It's another to see it in real life. And it's a sense of like, she is just trying to do the right thing by her people, even though maybe in a part of her knows that there's something up with it. But it's like, yeah, I love how the vibe just, not shifts, but also doesn't shift, because it's just like, you're putting these two characters, these two larger than life characters, in this situation of, okay, welcome to the small town. Hal obviously has history here, not just with the lantern ring, but probably some other stuff that we don't know about, given the fact that he had been investigating this for 10, maybe more so years. So there's just like a lot to go with it. But it's just like, I love how, again, instantly, the moment we're in this town, everything just feels, it just feels like you the viewer are being put to the test of like, okay, can you tell what the who the alien is? Can you tell where the problem is, where the gunshot's gonna go off, where the bomb's gonna ignite, where the person's gonna run? And it's like, it's putting you into that mindset, which I really appreciate, even before the little chase, which, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna point this out real quick. Like, I love that chase moment, but I can't unsee a certain song from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs when Pierre runs. like good. Like, I can't unsee that. But it was cool.
but also it was hilarious, but also just showing just difference between Hal and John. Because Hal is just like, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. I can fly. You can go chase him. Go ahead. I know you can catch him. And then John just being just military, just like, okay, Huttu, gotta go. Right. And then he ended up capturing him. But the memes after that, yesterday's episode was hilarious though. But with trying to get to this person who's posing as an alien, Hal Jordan has an idea of basically trying to get into prison and basically in a bar fight while Jon Stewart's out, messing with grandmas. And then Lopa Hogue, when we get to the jail court, this little family in the town, they bail him out. And they say, yeah, small town, he must be cousins. It's like, yeah, that actually is kind of true, which is like, small town. Then you realize that the woman that Jon Stewart was messing with is actually the grandmother or wife to the Mackin family, who has the big farm and everything, and actually the one that bailed Hal Jordan out of prison, which we also know when you bailing somebody out, it comes with contingencies. And he has an employer. Who's the employer? We don't know. But this entire family definitely was giving, true detective vibes of this town. I was seeing a lot of people comments about, the setting of it looks like it's low budget, like some budget cuts. I'm like, no, I think that's a choice narratively. Even then, just in terms of this first episode looks way better than Peacemaker. That's just my personal opinion. Cinematography wise, even like just in terms of the grading and everything, the tone, also create the atmosphere of that setting and stuff. And just to me, it makes it even great. And then when we get to the later end of the season, we'll see more brightness and colors and stuff like that, because that's the tone of Green Lanterns and everything. And I know when we get to the end of the episode that basically he's interrogating this alien, and we find out that there's about at least 12 or 14 aliens that can pose as human and not be detected. Which I love the fact that they able to establish that DC lore of them. There's a history. 300 years have been metahumans, and also there have been aliens. And I think also kind of hypocritical with Lex Luthor with this, with Superman, but yet you have a person who is interacting with aliens, and yet you don't want to investigate that. Whatever. But I think it was interesting that they dive into that history, and even to the construct of the ring having a backup system, and then at the alien actually posing as a human, and then reciting questions that someone from Nebraska in 2016 wouldn't answer. And that's, to me, I thought was very powerful. Was like they were able to. We know the time period of 2016. And we know even the setting they use that part of the story. It's like some people that here's come the politics and everything. Like, no. You're in Nebraska and you're saying Barack Obama's middle name? Really? Okay. Then that's, to me, I thought it was hilarious. Even as a police officer, Green Lanterns being technically space cops, like, no, using your interrogation skills and everything, and know, like, hey, someone from Nebraska, especially someone like you, would not even be not respectful to Barack Obama. Yeah, you're an alien. And stuff. But as we he's trying to basically transition out and keep testing John throughout the episode. Then we find out the alien is actually real, and he tried to explode. And then we thought, that's when Hal Jordan's going to go out, right? No. He was able to make a force shield and everything. Great. But then as we jump into another time period today, 2026. And we see Aaron Pierre, Jon Stewart, with a goatee, driving up in this very snowy Nebraska. And it's like, we know where he's at. Oh, we look at, he's at the same town, but everything's all devastated and destroyed. What's going on? Interacting with the detective you met earlier. I feel like they have a relationship and everything, a friendship, and everything, and mutual respect to each other. And then it's like, hey, how many other people know? Only the groundkeeper. And he walks over to the same spot they were early in the episode, at the bleachers. And we see someone standing there, frozen cold. And we see that it is Hal Jordan with a bullet hole in his head and his ring missing. So Hal Jordan's dead in the first episode. Or is he? Is it just a hologram? Or whatever? J.K., what was your thoughts as we wrap things up in this episode and leaving with that enormous cliffhanger?
that I was not expecting that cliffhanger. Like, first off, just the interrogation scene, I really loved it because, like, yeah, like there are a lot of like, really, you would say that back in 2016 in Nebraska of all places. But yeah, no, it's like I just love that. But it's like once we kicked over to 2026, it's like, oh, right, yeah, right. There, the third timeline, which is current day, like very current day, like after the events of Superman and everything. And just seeing John in the town, it's like, again, you spend so much time within this town in this first episode that then you establish like, oh, it's gone. Like the entire town is like, we know there's going to be some action later on in the season as we saw within the trailers, but it's like, goddamn, like practically everything is gone. Like snow, like yes, the snow, but it's like without the snow, it'd probably be devastation all over. And then you see Hal's dead body and the ring gone, and it's like, okay, who has the ring now? Now, of course, as we know, especially if you saw the Weeks Ahead trailer, you know that there will be more scenes in current day of 2026 where we will see, more of Jon Stewart, current day goatee and all that. Of course, as we also know, we'll see Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner that we saw in both Superman and Peacemaker make an appearance. Maybe he might even know what's going on with that. We'll see him there and find out exactly when he became a Green Lantern, because again, back in 2016 it seemed like it was just Hal and then John in training, no Guy yet, but of course we know Guy is also another Green Lantern, as we saw in the Superman film. So it's just like probably filling in the gaps of when that happened and when he met Hal. But yeah, just like the question of when exactly did Hal die? Was it during the events of 2016? Is it something that happened later on in the timeline, or was it a recent thing? And also, who has his ring? Does Guy have it? Does someone else have it, like Kyle Rayner, for example? Or is it just hidden by? Is it stolen by Sinestro, who we know we will also see within the season, or by whoever is the mystery employer for the Macon family that we have yet to meet? Could it be freaking could it be Maxwell Lord? Because again, like we've seen Maxwell Lord now in the DCU as seen in Superman and Peacemaker. It could literally be anyone at this point, from both who will be introduced to in the show and who we've already been introduced to into the DCU. But it sets up a really nice mystery of like, okay, back then Jon Stewart looked up to him. 2016, which is going to be the main events of most of this show, we're going to see their dynamic. And then 2026 to set up John as the only or the current main Green Lantern going into Man of Tomorrow. There's just so much here that it makes you like, okay, I've already heard from enough people that they were just like, man, can we just skip to Sunday again? Can we just skip to Sunday? Because like we want to see where this goes next. And I'm like, yeah, this mystery of what happened in this town, plus what will happen to this town and will happen to Hal, is like the big driving force. It's like, okay, yeah, Hal's dead, but how did we get here? It's that type of mystery now. It's like it's no longer, it's not just a who done it, it's also a how did we get here. And it's like, I'm definitely excited to see like where this goes, if Hal is actually dead, and where Jon Stewart is from like there messing with grandmas to now messing with hot girl. Sorry, I had to say that. But Bert.
Check his eyesight.
I mean, he said he was a vegan, but it's not always a vegan. Anyways, so but yeah, no, I was just like, this mystery has me hooked, and it has a lot of people hooked. I am very happy to say that I am so far very, very happy with this, and I cannot wait to see where the rest of these weeks go in terms of Lanterns. I am tuning in every Sunday, 9 on the docket, and I hope you guys are too, because this show so far has a lot of high praise, and I think rightfully so from everything we've seen so far and everything that we have seen within that week's upcoming trailer of what we're about to get. So yeah, I have no complaints. I have no more notes. I just have a lot of questions, and I think a lot of us have a lot of questions as to where this is going to go in terms of who, what, where, and why, and also when. So I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, as someone only seen like the first few episodes, seeing the reaction of people with this show compared to Peacemaker and what you see like the tomato score is, to me, I feel like doesn't do this show justice. And I think the fact that this is coming right after Supergirl, I believe adds to that. of that little residue with this show where we're like,
man, I don't even know it's gonna be good, and blah blah blah.
You know, that type of mess. You know, and again, some people might find this first episode to be mid or just okay. But I can just tell you that they're setting the seeds are already in place for a very impactful season. And this show, much as it is very, you know, earthbound and terrestrial, it's very massive in terms of the scope, in terms of implications that, you know, that this show is going to have once you get to episode by episode. And the mystery makes you even more intrigued when more things get revealed, and gets that back to that HBO type of storytelling that we enjoy now, just with characters that we love, which is Green Lantern. So I would say this show is a win. I will do a full non-spoiler review of the first few episodes I've seen. As we move forward, we'll be reviewing this show episode by episode, a total of 8, I believe, and all the way up to October before we get to Vision Quest, another show. And this is a win for DC, and I'm intrigued. As being my most anticipated show of the year, I am not disappointed after watching this first episode, and I can probably share with my co-hosts. Good job. We're eating good. We're eating good. So let's stay on course, and hopefully we won't be messing with grandmas after this episode. But anyway, all right. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.